Jin is saying to Cassian, if I have a gun or if I don't have a gun, whether you trust me or not is your decision. So you better choose to trust me because I'm keeping this gun, right?
You're listening to
Path of the Jedi
with your host, Ronnie Cruz.
All right, welcome to Path of the Jedi, the podcast where Star Wars meets personal development. My name is Ronnie Cruz, your host for this epic journey, and I'll be spending the next 15 to 20 minutes with you. So let's go ahead and dive right into it with news and updates.
Hello, what have we here?
Right off the bat, the first thing I want to talk about is fall. That's right, fall is officially here. Well, it's been officially here for over a month now, but the fall weather has actually finally landed up here on the mountain. There is a chill in the air, and so we have gone ahead and turned on our heater for the season, which means for our recording purposes, you may hear a slight hum or buzz in the background cycling on and off. That is our heater turning on and off to make sure that we don't become hypothermic, right, in the house, right? So I will do my best to minimize the buzzing and the humming in post-production, but I do want to thank you in advance in case you do hear that humming and buzzing in this episode and throughout the future episodes during these colder months of the year. Okay, moving right along, let's jump straight to the shout out. This week's shout out goes to a dear friend of mine, a lifelong friend, Mr. Emil McGloin. Now, Emil and I used to play in a band together many, many moons ago called Brother Monk, and he was actually the lead guitarist for the band. Easily, in my opinion, one of the best guitarists I've ever heard play or seen play in person, and I had the fortunate privilege of sharing the stage with him, being in the same band. Now, he's gone on and continued to play music as his career, and most recently, and this is why I wanted to give him a shout out on today's call, most recently he has gotten featured, or he's been featured on a new album released by Mr. John Forte. If you don't know who John Forte is, he was actually a big part of the Fugees way back in the day, and he actually co-wrote and produced several songs on their album The Score. Forte has gone on to have a very successful solo career as a recording artist and musician, and most recently, just last week, as a matter of fact, released his latest album called Vessels, Angels, and Ancestors. It's on this album that my friend Emil McGloin is actually credited as a contributing producer. So this is a huge, huge deal for Emil, right? Like after all the years of hard work and tireless effort, working on honing his craft as a guitarist, as a musician, as a composer, I honestly, it couldn't have happened to a better guy. So please join me in congratulating and celebrating Emil. I will leave his Instagram in the show notes of this episode, as well as the link to learning more about John Forte and his music, especially with his new album, Vessels, Angels, and Ancestors. Now, if there's anybody that you'd like to give a shout out to and celebrate, we would love to do that for you here on the show, Path of the Jedi. I love celebrating people. You guys know that. So send an email to info@pathofthejedi.com with shout out in the subject heading and let us know who you'd like to celebrate and what your message is to them. Or you can even leave an MP3 and we'll play that on the next episode. Again, send an email to info@pathofthejedi.com with shout out in the subject heading. Okay, now the next update is actually a resource for you guys in the form of a program that is starting November 1st. This program is called Global Wealth Mindset. It's one of the many awesome programs offered by GrowthU. And I'm going to go ahead and just read this quick blurb off the website. Global Wealth Mindset, 45 days to a new way of creating a compelling financial future. Unlock your full financial potential with daily online modules designed to inspire and support you in living an abundant, wealthy life. Identify and release beliefs around money that limit the steps you take, and build a confident financial identity to reach your global wealth vision. So that's just a quick blurb about the program. You can read more about it and get more information. I will leave the link in the show notes of this episode. My main thing is, if finances have always felt to you like an uphill battle, this is the program for you. You're really going to want to check it out. So make sure you go to the show notes and click on the link, learn more about the program. It is a little bit time sensitive since it starts November 1st. But if you are interested and decide that you do want to go through the program, let me know as soon as you can. Shoot an email over to info@pathofthejedi.com with Global Wealth Mindset in the subject heading. I actually have a code for you where you can get a discount off the price. So again, the program is called Global Wealth Mindset. It starts November 1st. You can get more information in the show notes of this episode.
I'm going in. Cover me, Porkins.
And since we're on the topic of programs, the final update for today goes out to all my listeners who are in the network marketing and direct sales profession. I just want to give you guys an update on the program that I've been working on and putting together. Had an amazing conversation today, and things are really, really starting to take shape. They're starting to take form, and I love the direction that we're going with this program. That said, I want to let you guys know that we are taking our time because we want to do it right. We want to give you guys the singular best network marketing training program out there available. And when I say best, I'm not just talking about content and value. I'm also talking about the singular program that, in my experience, my 15 plus years of experience here in the network marketing profession, I want to give you guys the best program and training that will finally help you build the network marketing business that you've always dreamed of. So if you are at all interested in learning more and think that maybe this program might be for you, go ahead and send us an email to info@pathofthejedi.com with network marketing program in the subject heading, and we will periodically send out updates and information on the progress and eventual and inevitable launch of the program.
Trust goes both ways.
All right, so this quote comes from Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. And I chose this quote in particular primarily because I wanted to discuss something outside of the Jedi, right? I wanted to have a topic that did not involve Jedi to show that there is wisdom to be found in Star Wars without the Jedi from all the other myriad characters in the Star Wars universe. And then as I thought about it, the topic of trust really is a great natural next step in the progression of the conversation we're having here at Path of the Jedi. If you reference back and remember episode 9 of the podcast, we talked about creating a vision and goals for yourself with the mind frame that there are limitless possibilities. And then in episode 10, we talked about the fact that there is no such thing as luck. So I think trust is a great topic to talk about here on this episode. Now, this movie, Rogue One, it has a lot of themes. It has a lot of really strong themes that drive through it. The theme of hope, the theme of sacrifice are very prevalent. The theme of trust isn't necessarily as apparent as those other themes, but it's there nonetheless. And in fact, on my rewatch over the weekend of Rogue One, I really noticed that this thread of trust is deeply interwoven throughout the entire story. Now, this quote comes from a scene in the movie when our hero, Jyn Erso, has recently been recruited by the rebels, and she's on her first mission with another character by the name of Cassian Andor. Now, these two characters at this point in the movie don't really know each other very well, and so they're still trying to feel each other out, right? And so that's where we get this quote, "Trust goes both ways." This context gives us a great jumping off point to talk about trust because it involves interpersonal relationships. On the surface, I think it can easily be interpreted as trust being something that needs to be earned, right? Through this scene and the subsequent scenes in the movie, these two characters are continually having to kind of challenge each other and challenging whether or not they are willing to give the other person their trust. In our world, I think that's predominantly how people talk about trust, like it's something that needs to be earned, right? You have to earn my trust. But if you listen to the quote, I don't think that's necessarily what Jyn Erso is saying. When you take a look at what's happening in this scene, this whole conversation revolves around the fact that Cassian does not trust Jin to carry firearms on this mission. And of course, Jin's response is, well, trust goes both ways. If you expect me to trust you, then you should be willing to trust me. Or better yet, how can you have that expectation of other people if you don't have that expectation of yourself? And there's such a brilliance to that. Jin is saying to Cassian, if I have a gun or if I don't have a gun, whether you trust me or not is your decision. So you better choose to trust me because I'm keeping this gun, right? You see, trust doesn't happen as a result of what anybody else does or an external circumstance. It's the result of a decision. We either choose to trust or we choose not to trust. Oftentimes, we base that decision on external circumstances. We make the decision to trust or to not trust someone based on their actions, but it's still our decision nonetheless. And I get it. We all go through things in life that can cause us to be less trusting of people. If you look at these two characters, Jin and Cassian, both of them pretty much through their entire lives have lived nothing but difficulty, adversity, and challenges, right? Growing up outside of the law, growing up without a home, growing up during and participating in a rebellion and seeing battle and seeing death. All of these things can cause a person, I know this is extreme examples because it's from a movie, but it can really cause a person to be distrustful. As the movie progresses, you really start to see that the success of their mission hinges on their decision to trust or not trust each other. Thankfully, they chose to trust each other and ultimately end up fulfilling their mission, even though it was at the cost of their own lives. That's a whole different conversation. The point is, trust, like so many things that we've talked about on this show, is a choice. And I'll take it a step further and say that choice, the choice to either give trust or to not give trust, can largely affect the quality of our life experience. Now, some people might say, I give my trust to people all the time. They just have to earn it first. I would really urge caution with this, guys. You got to be really careful with this kind of mindset. I would wager to say that people who walk around operating this way don't have very many friends, and the friends that they do have probably are really just surface friends, because honestly, who wants to be on the receiving end of a conditional friendship? Conditional trust is no trust at all. I mean, imagine this. Imagine if you had a friend who, every time you were around them, you felt like you were being measured, right? Measured by some unspoken standard or some unspoken expectation or condition. You don't know what those expectations or conditions are, but you know they're there. How would that make you feel? It would make you feel judged, naturally, right? Like you're stepping on eggshells every time you're around this person. You have no idea how to behave or how to act because you don't know what their expectations or conditions are. And before long, you're going to not want to be around that individual because who needs that in their life, right? And even if you did know what those conditions were, right? If you did know that if you did X, Y, and Z, this individual would trust you and this individual would be your friend, that's no friendship at all. That's more of a contractual agreement. So we have to be really careful with this mindset that people have to earn our trust because it can be very destructive, right? And you could potentially miss out on what would have otherwise been a beautiful relationship. Okay, so you might be asking, well, how do I know I won't be taken advantage of? How do I know that I can trust people? And the answer to that is you don't. That's what trust means. To trust is to not know, but have faith. I mean, we've all heard of the classic trust exercise, right? Where you fall backwards and you have faith that your friends will catch you. You have no idea what's going on behind you. You can't see them. You can't see if their hands are out or if they're ready to do it, but you have faith. You trust them anyways, and you fall back, and what ends up happening? They catch you. That is the essence of trust. And in the movie Rogue One, we actually have a character that embodies this very ideal. In the movie, there's a character called Chirrut Imwe, played by the legendary Donnie Yen. For those of you who aren't familiar with the movie or haven't seen it yet, Chirrut is the blind, staff-wielding, ass-kicking sage that walks around with the mantra, "I am one with the Force is with me." I absolutely love this character because he, again, personifies everything that we've been talking about. He personifies trust. He has to implicitly trust everyone and everything around him because he can't see. He has to trust that his best friend and life partner doesn't actually shoot him or get him caught in crossfire. He has to trust that everybody that he's chosen to side and partner with has his back. He has to trust that this whole entire collective and crew are making the right decisions because he can't see. Towards the middle of the movie, in one of the battle scenes, Chirrut leaves the safety of the ship and starts walking towards the battle. And he says, and I quote, "I'm following Jin. The path is clear." Now, did he mean that the path was clear literally? No, of course not. He's blind. What he meant was he was following Jin because he's chosen to trust her. With that trust, he's surrendering judgment. He's surrendering conditions. In trusting Jin, he's trusting the path. He's giving into the process. He's accepting that the here and now, where they are, is exactly where they need to be at the moment. The Force is with me. I am one with the Force. What is that but a declaration of faith, a declaration of trust? And that's why he's not fazed by anything. So allow yourself to trust more freely. When you trust more freely, you'll begin to see people not for who you hope they aren't, but instead you'll begin to see them for the beauty of who they really are. When you trust more freely, you'll begin to see that what you're going through right now is exactly what you need to go through in order to get to where you want to go. All right, that is going to do it for today's episode. What do you guys think? Do you guys trust that I actually know what I'm talking about? Let me know. Let me know what you think. Send me an email to info@pathofthejedi.com with today's episode title in the subject heading. And yeah, let me know where your head's at. And of course, if you want to leave a MP3, you can do that as well. Yeah, so there's lots of layers to this conversation on trust. So I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts. Feel free to reach out via email, or you can hit us up on Facebook or Twitter. It's POTJ Podcast. One last thing before we go, and I'm trying something new here. I want to give you guys every once in a while some homework, a little fun exercise to do in between episodes. Really more for me than anything, but I would love for you guys to play along. Just to throw some more fun into the situation, add some spice into things. This week's homework, what I would love for you guys to do is do something that you love but haven't done in a very, very long time. Again, the homework is do something that you love but haven't done in a long, long time. So share your results, share what that thing is on our Twitter or Facebook. Again, it's POTJ Podcast. And beyond that, I really appreciate you guys hanging out with me again today on this week's episode. I know it was a little late, but it got out here nonetheless. So thank you so much. We will catch you next week. Until then, be well, be safe, and as always, may the Force be with you. This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company nor Lucasfilm Limited and is intended for entertainment, educational, and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names and sounds and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is intellectual property of Path of the Jedi unless otherwise indicated.